We need a strong network of alliances and partnerships. Fortunately, Japan, South Korea, and the Philippines, and Australia are increasing their defense spending and providing critical access and basings that enable our forces to operate throughout the region.
And then the worst part of it is the absolute contempt that the president has shown for the entire world, but certainly for Asia. He points out, look, it's not our problem, it's their problem. They're more dependent upon Gulf oil than we are, and that's true. It is true. The rest of the world is getting hit economically a lot harder by our stupid war of choice in the Middle East than we are. That's not something to brag about if you want to try to build partnerships and alliances. At a minimum, it's something to say, hey, sorry, how can we help? Right? Is there something we can do to mitigate these damages? Is that the war in Iran has undermined every single one of those goals that we just laid out. Obviously, we are expending a lot of munitions and a lot of capability there. And then an even bigger problem, to my mind, is how this has impacted our partnerships and alliances. We stumbled into this war, have no idea how to get out of it. Didn't have any idea how to get out of it when it started. We have even less of an idea today. That the chaotic, plans that the president has been laying out in the last week, it's all over. They've agreed to everything. They've agreed to nothing. We're not talking. I will not extend the ceasefire. I will extend the ceasefire. I'm extending it forever. The message that sends to the world is that we are not a reliable partner. We don't know what we're doing.
North Korea's advancing cyber, nuclear, and missile arsenals threaten both South Korea and the U.S. homeland. Therefore, I'm encouraged that South Korea is demonstrating a clear commitment to taking on significantly greater responsibility for its own defense. But that progress must not be undermined by a premature reduction of U.S. forces from the peninsula or a premature transition of wartime operational control.
Their continued modernization of their forces allow us to do other things. With OPCON transfer, what we're looking at is maybe taking a look westward while also providing critical but more limited support to the North Korea mission.
The United States and South Korea agreed to a conditions-related capabilities security environment, and that it must be met before wartime operational control can be transferred to South Korea. How's that going?
I'll give you more detail in closed based on some of the critical capabilities that need to be discussed. But I would say that right now we've delivered to OSW a roadmap which will get us there not later than second quarter of FY29. We stand based on the continued investments by the Republic of Korea in their defense, really an uplift of about 8.5% in their defense spending over the next 3 FY. I think that we're in a good position, but there's still more work to be done.
We keep in the fore of our mind is that until those conditions are met, we do not need to be premature in transferring that operational control.
Just follow up a little bit about sort of South Korean capability to meet the threat from North Korea. If you could give a few more details about it. We talked a little bit about some of the logistical challenges. I mean, aside from just having the forces and the munitions, being able to organize, how do you assess South Korea's capability and how critical it is that we continue to partner with them?
That I look at is when you look at the 10 largest armies in the world, South Korea is one of those, and they're sitting at 5th right now. So mass has a quality all its own. So that would be reason number one as an infantry officer that I would say it's important that we continue to partner. I also think that geography plays into this as well, the centrality of Korea in the region, its ability to impose costs both in the West Sea and the East Sea. When I look at their forces, what I'm most pleased with is the continued growth of their defense industry and the potential that exists for them to accelerate so that they can secure the capabilities that are absolutely necessary for OPCON transfer. As a partner, I would consider them, and maybe it's because of where I live, the preeminent partner in the region.
Roughly 28,500 U.S. service members are stationed in the Republic of Korea. How do you assess the readiness of the combined U.S. ROK force today to deter aggression from North Korea?
I would assess us having just exercised this formation in February as being prepared to deter.
What are your thoughts on the forces within the Korean Peninsula?
About 20% of the cost of stationing forces forward is borne by the Koreans, and that through the Special Measures Agreement, which takes into account about $500 million in terms of what would be MILCON that the Department of War would have to bear, which they don't have to bear because that's paid for by the Korean, the ROC-funded construction, which for our KGS wage employees that support our command in theater, that's borne by the Koreans. So 85% of the salaries paid by the Republic of Korea, we only bear the cost of 15%. So the forces that are stationed are well positioned at less cost than others who are placed forward to Oconus.
To remain there? Sir? And you expect them to remain there?
We're listening to news about some of the air defenses being moved out of Korea to the Middle East.
No impacts to our ongoing missions and operations, Congressman.
Is it true that resources from the U.S. forces Korea have been redirected to the Middle East?
I would prefer to answer that question in closed.
How has the movement of resources put our soldiers and interests in the Indo-Pacific at risk?
I'd like to talk about that in closed session. I'll also say that those forces in the Indo-Pacific are experiencing combat, and there will be direct applicability to the Indo-Pacific.
This keeps up for too long. Such a high demand could actually undermine our military readiness rather than improve it.
At this time, there's not been a degradation of readiness at this time.
I'm one of those that have believed that China would use economic influence over direct military conflict with regard to Taiwan. What are the primary non-kinetic pathways China could use to achieve control over Taiwan short of an invasion?
United front operation, information operations, to sway public opinion, to distort the truth, to separate citizens from their government. These are efforts. It's an ongoing, continuous effort. Not just in Taiwan, but all throughout the Asia-Pacific, in fact, all throughout the world, on the record for that. Certain lawfare actions, a quarantine that sets new customs entities backed up by law enforcement type forces like Maritime Security Administration, China Coast Guard. These are all contingencies that we plan very deeply.
How are China and Russia's relationship affecting the stability on the peninsula?
If you would imagine an Oreo, and you say China's the cookie part and Russia's the other cookie part and DPRK's in the middle, that's changed the region significantly. It's changed it by way of the way that North Korea gets materiel that they then use to pressure South Korea. The connectivity across those three nations is something that we can't belie. We've got to pay attention to this because it changes the way that North Korea acts.
Always coming.
Do you think the constant barrage of on-again, off-again tariffs are helping to strengthen partnerships in the Indo-Pacific? A simple yes or no.
Congressman, I can speak from personal experience.
Simple yes or no.
What was your question?
Do you think the constant barrage of on-again, off-again tariffs coming from this administration are helping to strengthen partnerships in the Indo-Pacific?
Congressman, I'll say from personal
It's okay. I'll move on.
What do you think about the fact that people refer to President Trump as the taco president? He put huge tariffs on China, and then when he felt some pain at home, he gave in.
The Department of War is doing everything it can to make sure our deterrence posture is in the strongest place possible.
Do you think they do a sufficient job of deterring China from a military confrontation with Taiwan? Clearly, intentionally, they entirely omit any mention of Taiwan in the document.
The arms sale that was announced a few months ago under this administration of $11 billion was the largest in history.
You're right, it was announced. What confidence can you give us that the president won't chicken out on that as well?
Sir, I think the $11 billion in arms sales speaks for itself.
No, it has not been sold. It's been proposed.